Would you actually, a collaboration, say, between
Oh,
Raja
sure.
Kumari and BTS, would you like that?
Any day, anytime, any day. I think that would be awesome. I just love when cultures mash up. I definitely remain true to myself. I definitely would not benefit from having, hundreds of millions of fake views. I don't quite care if people don't like them. Like, I mean, if I say something wrong and
Yeah.
and then I accept, I understand. But if people just don't like me because they don't like the way I blend the music, it's not for everyone. It's really just for those that enjoy it. And honestly, I just make music that I like.
Welcome to Pinkula, Raja Kumari. It's so nice to meet you, even though it's virtually, but still.
Well,
Uh,
thank you for having me.
so you were just talking about how you were cleaning your house for 5 hours. So the first thing that I wanted to ask you is, how has the quarantine been treating you so far?
I have learned to do so many things. I have learned to take care of myself, and I've learned to enjoy it. Like, it hasn't been like, normally if I was trying a diet, it would be like, we have to change my diet tomorrow. But it's really just been about little changes that have now changed my whole lifestyle. So I'm just really happy, by myself, doing my own thing.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you is, your song Peace is actually, drastically different from the work that we're used to seeing from you.
Mhm.
And you had also said that you'd written it at, a difficult point of time when you're trying to figure out yourself and, the whole existential crisis that we go through. So how do you think Peace is different from all of your other work, and what was the message that you wanted to send out to people through that song?
I think peace is different for everyone because they've never heard me write like that. But peace is very much the type of song I started writing. Like, that's like when I first started writing, I wrote a lot of songs like peace. They were like very spiritual, they were very clear, they were very like simple, they weren't very aggressive. So for me, it was like a return to the source, like return to how I started. So it was fun to be able to share that side of myself with everyone. And the song is written like an affirmation. I mean, like the way the lyrics written, Elvis Brown, he's a longtime collaborator of mine. He came to Bombay to work on my album with me, and we wrote this song together. And we were talking a lot about positive affirmation, about how repeating certain things, can give that effect in your life, and like really watching your words. So instead of writing a song about like feeling sad or whatever I was going through at the time, being away from my family and everything, piling up in the ways that it tended to do, before we all to deal with ourselves. Um, the song was written, as like a prescription for that, and the fact that it was ready, and it was ready to put out at the time that it did in July, and it being like the first time I had gone outside during the quarantine to nature, was shooting that video. And I had gone from having a 13-person staff with like glam team to like doing everything by myself. So it was a different experience, but liberating. And I'm just so thankful that people are accepting this part of me, this side of me, because it's a direction I definitely want to go more into.
Going back to your roots, kind of, we have NRI, which, you're talking about how you're juggling between, being an American and an Indian. So how do you think your Indianness has changed over time? You also see your progression with your lyrics, the way you write your songs. So how do you think your Indianness has, changed over the years?
I think I've just become more unapologetic. Like, I don't know. I think I've maintained that level of like balance. It's always been in this like frequency thing for me. It's like mixing the fashion with the sounds and the visuals and the concepts. I think I've been able to explore more things. If you look at Bindis and Bangles, that was one of the craziest things I've ever got to put on film. I'm so thankful that I did it when I did, because 2020 has showed us that, like, we don't always have all the time in the world to do these things. So I'm thankful, my team pushed themselves, and we made that happen. But I think, yeah, I think it's like a safer place for my Indianness. I think people have become a lot nicer. So,
So
yeah.
I wanted to ask you, as an artist, right? So when, like right now we're in a phase where trolling has become, the next big thing. And what, people like to pinpoint each and every lyric, if they find something offensive, which, everybody finds everything offensive right now.
Mhm.
So how do you stay true to yourself as an artist when you're writing your lyrics, but at the same time, are you politically correct? Do you think about that when you're writing your lyrics? How exactly do you go through that?
I mean, we all learn from experience, like being trolled or whatever. I think we tried, I think all artists try to not be affected by it and still create, but I definitely think a little bit, about my lyrics, make sure that I mean what I mean to say, because I think being taken out of context and also
Exactly.
coming from one culture and not quite understanding how it can affect people is really serious. So I guess I'm definitely been a lot more careful with my lyrics, but I don't quite care if people don't like them. Like, I mean, if I say something wrong
Yeah.
and then I accept, I understand, but if people just don't like me because they don't like the way I blend the music, it's not for everyone, it's really just for those that enjoy it. And honestly, I just make music that I like. I make music that sounds good to me and I share it with the world, and I'm happy when people agree.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you is, you were a part of the Dil Bechara soundtrack, and you said that over years I've seen your interviews where you've spoken about your admiration for A.R. Rahman, who you worked with a couple of times. And given that Dil Bechara is a very special film right now because it's like a dedication to Sushant, so what was it like being a part of that album and a part of that song, which if you go through the YouTube section, everyone's going to be like, okay, that is a song that you have to listen to. So what was that feeling like?
Even writing that song was so like spur of the moment. I was in town in Chennai for a show that that Rahmanji had invited me to perform with him. So I was already living one dream, and I went to see him at the studio, and he just said, "Oh, I was wondering if you have an idea for this." And it actually just came out like this. I think I wrote it in like less than 10 minutes. I just sat down
Was
and
it like in the night?
yeah, it was in the middle of the night. I think it was like 1 a.m. My mom was there. She came with me and she was up really late because I wanted her to finally meet AR. And I just said, okay, sit right here for 10 minutes. And I went inside and just wrote it and I just recorded it. And I remember watching the film, that scene of the film where the song appears. And I always remembered, after we did the scene, I mean, after I did the song, I kept thinking like, oh, I want to watch this film, and just remembering Sushant and remembering his performance. So, being a part of the soundtrack, I mean, anytime I get to work with AR Rahman, it's special, but, to be on a film like that is also special in its own way, just to have that kind of crazy mashup of a song, like what a crazy collaboration. I'm just excited every time I work with AR because he just kind of pushes me in different ways. I mean, even in that performance, he made me sing in Tamil. Like, I was like, I don't sing in Tamil. He's like, you are singing in Tamil right now. So, I just kind of follow him wherever he leads.
Speaking of your writing skills, you started off obviously as a very successful songwriter. You worked with people like Gwen Stefani, Fall Out Boy. I still can't believe you co-wrote Centuries, by the way.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Oh, I'm
But
so happy.
so what I wanted to ask you is, when did you have like that eureka moment? You know what? I'm going to sing my lyrics now. I'm just not going to write for everyone. I'm going to write for myself. So when did you have like that eureka moment?
It wasn't such a good thing. It was more like I was upset. I think I've talked about this before, and I don't mean to be mean about her over and over again, but Iggy Azalea shot a video in India where it was called Bounce. And I just felt like she put on like Indian culture like a costume, and it just like, I guess it made me upset because it had like elements of a videos that I had dreamt about making one day, like that I had written about in my journal, like I want to do this and this, and then seeing it done by someone who wasn't from the culture or didn't understand it just made me feel like, okay, I have to wake up now, and if I don't do it, then I don't know who will, and I need to go, make this happen. So I can't be mad about it now. I credit her for waking me up.
What was it like, the day that you heard that you got a Grammy nomination? I know we're going like throwback, but I'd love to know what your reaction was when you found out.
I was in the gym. I knew they were making announcements that day. I didn't even think anything of it. I had a lot of friends that had huge records that year. So I was just, watching the announcements, and then my phone just starts exploding. And I just was on the treadmill. I just stopped the treadmill. I ran outside and called my mom and started crying. So that was what happened.
Speaking of your, upcoming album, fans are obviously excited and they definitely want some teaser, something, at least something. So could you give us at least a little bit of a tease of what we can expect?
The new album is called The Bridge, and it's something I've had in my mind for quite some time. Being the third album, it's like the third chapter. First one was about manifestation. Second album, Bloodline, was really about protecting what is yours and, what are you willing to fight for. And I feel like this one has a lot more healing on it, but also a lot more understanding of who you are. There's still the, bad girl anthems that everyone knows me for are definitely on there. Some crazy collaborations that I can't say yet, but I think everyone will be proud. It's got a little spiritual touch as well. So I'm excited.
Speaking of collaborations, there was this recent tweet that you did on BTS, and upon further research, you have obviously given shout outs to the songs that you like of BTS. So,
Yeah.
would you actually, a collaboration, say, between Raja Kumari and BTS, would you like that?
Any day, anytime, any day. I think that would be awesome. I just love when cultures mash up, when people from different groups get to like come together and love one thing. So I just think that would be amazing.
Are there
The
any
BTS
other?
Army and the Kumari kids together.
That would be insane. In terms of Bollywood music, right? A lot of people are complaining nowadays that all we're getting are remixes or remakes. So, do you think the touch that Bollywood had? I'm talking about specifically Bollywood music and not Indian music as a whole. But for Bollywood music, do you think there's that spark which used to be there before in previous songs, say like Pehla Nasha or Ek Ladki Ko Dekha? Do you think those songs? It's kind of going away. I mean, that spark is gone.
I would hope that we're just in a phase. I wouldn't say that so quickly because I do believe that we have the most talented musicians. I do believe that we're capable of so many things. And I think that this time period is going to bring a lot of inspiration. And I think a lot of people are going to come with new music and new things. So, and also the remixes, even though for us, we're saying, oh, they're older songs, but these younger kids were not introduced to that music. So in some ways, it's like doing them a service. So they have, they know some good music from the past and now, we'll move into the future. But I definitely love doing Bollywood music. I love finding ways to blend my style in there and find ways to try to bridge it, from west to east. Because my goal is to see, Indian culture in the mainstream, Western mainstream as well, just like everywhere on the radio, all over, so we need Bollywood films to cross over.
In terms of authenticity when it comes to an artist, right? Eventually, when you become big, there come the number game, right? Like the number of views, whether you made 100 million views or 200 million views. So I wanted to ask you, with the whole thing about fake followers and fake views and, paid views and all of that, how do you, like since you've become such a big artist now, how do you differentiate between, being a kind of a mass appeal, but at the same time, staying true to yourself? Like, does the mass appeal, is it of very commercial importance to you, or is the fact that you need to stay true to yourself will always, trump everything else?
Oh, I don't know if they have to be on opposite sides of the spectrum. I definitely remain true to myself. I definitely would not benefit from having, hundreds of millions of fake views, because I really feel like the views and the comments and everything, they tell you who really is into your music. They tell you what regions are into your music. And I've always used that data to know like where my shows should be and like, who's really reacting to which songs and which videos do they watch more, which content can I create more of. So I personally don't like to buy anything like that, because then it just skews all my data and I can't do my job as well as I'd like to. I understand that some people that happens, that game exists, and once you get on that number, everyone expects you to be there. But
there's a sense of pressure as well, right? Like
and I don't even want to like say anything bad about that too, because I mean it's I personally don't do it. I get when people are under that pressure, but I think it's best we just let the views be real,
Okay.
I didn't answer, I
And
mean, I don't answer that any other way.
thank you so much. I hope you had a great time, and it was great
Yes, thank
conversing with you.
yeah.
And waiting for your album.
Oh, it's coming. Don't worry. I'm working hard. I promise. And I
Bye.
promise there'll be the bad girl anthems. Bad anthems for sure. Thank
Anyways, thank you.
you. Bye.